Book Club! Hey everyone, Dan here from One Man Book Club. I have got something really unique for you I'm excited to share. This is The Lost Shtetl by Max Gross. It's about Jewish people, Jewish customs, written by a Jewish author who has won Jewish book awards. I'm not Jewish, but man, this book was fascinating. I picked it up because I was sold on the blurb on the back of The Lost Shtetl. This sold me on this really fascinating idea. What if an entire town had been lost to history? What would happen when this town was rediscovered? So I saw this book, I checked Goodreads for reviews, I got an idea of the pros and the cons, and decided to give it a try. I'm all for new cultures and learning new things through books. Did the gamble pay off? Yes! Yes, it did. Well, yes, it did. Mostly. For me, The Lost Shtetl was this really particularly cool glimpse into a culture that I'm not familiar with a perspective on history I find super fascinating, and it was all implemented in this really unique way that was this really, really cool reading experience. All of these elements work together to really make this book shine, and I loved that about it. The execution was shining. The actual story, particularly its characters, not so much. They were more like a dim flashlight on a dark night, which you want to be really bright, but no matter how much you bang it just isn't quite bright enough. But that was a bummer because this is a cool little story, and it was like this close to just totally being awesome. But it was still great, so let me tell you about it. The thing that really got my book nerd flag flying was the really cool way that Max Gross wrote this debut novel as if it were a true story and not a work of fiction. I could actually believe there was a village of 2,000 Jews in the woods of Poland that history totally forgot. They missed World War I. They missed World War II. They missed the Holocaust. They missed the Cold War. They missed the establishment of Israel. They missed cars, indoor plumbing, electricity, TV, the internet, inflation. And they were happy in their ignorance and their isolation. You can imagine the results when their rediscovery captivated the nation. How about reading about when they first learned of Hitler and how they were miraculously spared the terrors of genocide when millions and millions of other Jews did not. It's all in there. It's all equal parts silly, sober, and so easy to believe. I couldn't believe this was fiction. It was fascinating. I particularly enjoyed this really, really cool snapshot into Jewish culture. It was new for me, and I really loved it. There's all these great Yiddish and Polish and Hebrew words like meshugana and tzitzit. Every foreign or unfamiliar word has footnote definitions, so it made it really cool. There's descriptions of Jewish marriage arrangements, there's descriptions of food and kosher rules, traditional Jewish clothing, family dynamics, on and on. It's so well written. Like I said, it's hard to believe that The Lost Shtetl is a debut novel. It's both funny and informative, but still had plenty of moments of serious too. It felt like a cross between Mel Brooks, Fiddler on the Roof, and Schindler's List. I mentioned that stuff about a dim flashlight on a dark night. The story itself was kind of a bit chaotic, unfortunately. When the book begins, there's this one comfortable storyline. It's really, really great. But as the main characters kind of begin their own journeys, the story fractures. And eventually, it felt like there were two distinct plots that were only slightly connected. Yet the story would jump from unconnected scene to scene as if the two storylines were advancing the same plot. Now, I assumed that the intention was to have these two separate plots be intentional so that they could tell both stories and then everything ties nicely up at the end. But that ending never really happened. And instead, it just kind of made the two stories drag. And it was a little bit awkward the way they didn't fit together well, the two stories that were being told. The characters were interesting, but they didn't grow. And I kept waiting for any of the characters to have like this hero moment, but nothing came, and that felt disappointing. They stayed flat. Some even digressed and became less likable as the story went on. And the ending, if only the Lost Shtetl had stuck the landing at the end. All else could have been forgiven, but man, I'm a sucker for tidy bows put on at the end of my stories, and there was a lot of unresolved stuff. There was like a bit of like an unresolved knot here at the end instead of a bow. Sadly, that payoff I was hoping for never came. But bottom line, the Lost Shtetl was a mixed bag. A mixed bag of awesome and just on the wrong side of amazing. I'm super glad I read it, and I hope you will too. My hope is that by sharing the things I found that kind of like rubbed me the wrong way, you'll be able to go into it eyes wide open with realistic expectations, and then hopefully that will make you love it, because the things that were good were really, really good. This book deserves to be read. Now, there is some non-descriptive sexual content involving prostitutes. There's a handful of F-bombs. There's 7 to be exact, just so you know. And there's a fairly graphic description a couple times of mass death in World War II concentration camps. And there's one scene of quite strong violence. So, all of that summed up is probably best for, I'd say, 16 and up for this one. Nothing crosses the line into like, true rated R, but probably best for 16 and up. And I really enjoyed it. I hope that you'll be able to look past some of the challenges and give it a try, because man, it was so fun to read about the Jewish culture and the idea of this Lost Shtetl in Poland, and the idea that, man, this reads like a real story, not something that's fictional. That was super, super cool and fun to read. So anyway, that's all. I hope you enjoyed The Lost Shtetl by Max Gross, because I did, despite some of its flaws. Happy reading, everyone.